We are in Stellarium in a simulated field in North Carolina facing south with a beautiful, clear, simulated sky in front of us. You can see down here that it's about 9 p.m. or so on the evening of October 30th, and time is advancing at the regular rate of 1 second into the future every second. But I'm going to speed that up a little bit and a little bit more. I'm hitting the L key in Stellarium just to get things moving. Repeated hits will speed up the time. And our topic here is constellations. So what are constellations? Well, historically, in ancient times, people associated patterns of stars in the sky with various myths. And that mythology, of course, it varied from culture to culture, region to region around the world. Every culture had groups of stars that they associated with mythological stories, mythological figures. Now, it is sunrise on the morning of Halloween. I'm going to do something we can't do in the real world. I'm going to turn off the atmosphere as if we did not have any air, so we can see the stars even when the sun is above the horizon. And so these are the mythological constellation figures, kind of from the Greek and Roman tradition. But I'm going to go ahead and get rid of those because those really aren't relevant in modern astronomy. Now, you may also have seen sort of the connect the lines or connect the dots figures with lines. And so these are different constellations. I'm going to go ahead and put some labels on these. And here are some various constellations with their names. And but again, these are kind of from the Roman Greek tradition, modified after European explorers went south of the equator. There were some new constellations that were established in kind of the 1600s in the southern hemisphere, but everything you're seeing here can be seen from mid-latitudes. We are, after all, in North Carolina in the simulation. But you know what, the connect the dots figures are really kind of like those more ornate artistic figures are not really all that relevant in modern astronomy. And what is really relevant in modern astronomy, so let me get rid of the lines, and I'm going to put up the boundary lines. And these are the lines that are important for modern astronomers. These are the dividing lines that separate the territory of sky of one constellation from another. And there are 88 officially defined constellations that astronomers use in modern times. And the purpose of this is just to have the entire sky, the entire celestial sphere, we say, divided up into labeled patches. Now, astronomers could have just made them all equal sized, or squares and wedges to cover the entire sky, but instead they just built on the existing tradition of derived from the ancient constellations. And but these dividing lines from one constellation to another have been defined in modern times. And the purpose of this is that we can say, for instance, I'm going to go ahead and stop time here, and I'm going to scroll up a little bit, and we can say, for instance, that the sun is in the constellation of Libra because it is within this dividing line. Mercury is in the constellation of Virgo, as is Venus. And now the star named Spica is also in Virgo. But Spica is always going to be in Virgo because the stars move with the sky, and as a pattern, in other words, it's part of the constellation, the pattern of stars. And those patterns only change over thousands, really hundreds of thousands and millions of years. Stars in the galaxy will drift relative to each other. But within human lifespans, and really within the span of human civilization, the constellations have not changed significantly. But planets, on the other hand, are orbiting the sun. And so they do move relative to the background stars, relative to the uh, uh, relative to the constellations. And so saying that Mercury is in Virgo right now just gives us a mental picture of approximately where Mercury is right now. Saying the sun is in Libra is a way of without giving coordinates. Now, astronomers use coordinates. They're called right ascension and declination. Just like cartographers on the Earth use longitude and latitude. But if you just want a rough mental picture, of, let's say you're calling someone and they're on a road trip and you ask where they are and they're driving across the country and they say they're in Kansas. They don't tell you their latitude and longitude. They're going to say, oh, I'm in Kansas. Well, it's kind of the same way with the sky, where we can say, okay, Mercury's in Virgo. That gives us a rough mental picture. If we need to know precisely where it is, yes, we can give the coordinates, right ascension, declination, just like your friend. If you really needed to know precisely where they were, they can pull up their GPS app and tell you their latitude and longitude. But just for a mental picture, a labeled patch of sky is good enough. And that's what the constellations are. There are 88 of them. And I'm going to go ahead and advance time here. And I'm going to jump forward one day. With a key press, I'm going to jump forward one day. And you can see that the sun has moved in that one day relative to the background stars, as have Mercury and Venus. And you can see, now it's now November 19th, if you look at the bottom there. And we can see that Mercury has moved into Libra, and the sun is moving out of Libra into Scorpius. And Mercury and Venus are kind of going with the sun. And then here comes the moon zipping by much more rapidly across the sky, crossing the stars, crossing the celestial sphere, crossing the constellations. Now, there is one particular set of constellations that are of particular interest. I've mentioned Virgo and Libra, Sagittarius, Capricorn. These names may ring a bell. And that is because there's this line in the sky that defines the path of the sun through the constellations over the course of a year. And that I'm going to lock onto the sun as we continue. Now, as I advance time, we're always going to keep the sun in the middle of the view. So there's Pisces, Aries, and you may recognize these as the astrological constellations, that is the ones that are used for horoscopes. Astrology is not a science. It's not what we're studying in this class. This is an astronomy class, not an astrology class. And those two words, I know that they're very, very similar, but and hundreds of years ago, there was no distinction because people believed at that time that that the motions of things in the sky had a direct effect on our daily lives and our fates and our character. Well, we no longer believe that. At least I don't, and I would say most scientists don't. And but nonetheless, these constellations of the zodiac that you have heard of from horoscopes and things like that are have a basis in reality, in the sense that those are the constellations that the sun moves through over the course of a year. So here's Taurus, Gemini, Cancer, Leo, and Virgo. And I think we've come all the way around. And so those constellations collectively are called the zodiac. This line in the sky that the sun moves through the constellations over the course of a year is called the ecliptic. It's really the plane of the Earth's orbit around the sun extended out onto the sky. And so because the Earth and the sun are in that plane, we see the sun within that plane as well, in this line in the sky. So those are what the constellations are. In general, there are 88 of them. The zodiac constellations specifically are the constellations that the sun appears in front of over the course of a year.